My father was a printer. He worked at several print shops, but he also had a print shop in his basement, which he called the Harvest Press. And his big printing press was right below my bed. And so I could hear that when he was working at home at night. But it wasn't annoying. It was like a lullaby to me. I always felt very comforted when I could hear his press going, because I knew that my dad was home and he was doing work to help provide for our family. And so it was a very comfortable sound to hear his press running late at night when he worked on projects at home. He was a very hardworking man. He collected a lot of type and cuts and things for his business. And some of those I have now. And so it's been kind of interesting to see those things again.
And my mother, that lattice work in the front door, he looked at the heat registers and they had that design in it, so he liked it and he made it.
I had a cute personality, a cute smile. Even though he was very quiet, that cute little smile would always come out, and he was very kind and gentle, and really didn't get upset very often. Once in a while he'd raise his voice a little bit, but it wasn't anything mean. It was just a little bit of raising his voice, but he just had a really kind, nice way about him.
We bought a unfinished hull from Century Marine, and we fiberglassed it and finished it and put the motor on it. The first boat we had the motor on, it was way too small a boat and way too big a motor. It's like taking a coaster wagon down Capitol Hill.
And he never used the telephone much. My mother always had to talk on the telephone because he couldn't make that work with his hearing aids. He had hearing aids most of the time. But he read a lot. He was a voracious learner. He loved to learn things. And he would go Desert Industries and get a whole box of books and bring them home and read them all different topics. And then he would take them back and get another box full. And he loved to read.
He was quite a talented calligrapher. Yes. And at the age 70, he switched from left-handed to right-handed so he could make the letters correctly. And the thick and thin weren't right when he did them left-handed, so he did them right-handed. And how many people can do that?
He was also quite an artist. And when he had some project he was doing, he would make a beautiful blueprint artist rendition of it and show it to us how it was going to look when it got all finished. That was always interesting to see. When I was born, the year I was born, he had made a big life-size picture of Christ with his arms outstretched in a blue robe, and it was used for the road show in our ward. And so when I was born, our Christmas card was me laying under it and the family around it. And he was very artistic. My dad loved to take pictures. He was quite a photographer. And many people in the ward would ask him to come and take their family pictures, or missionaries, or weddings, or whatever. And he usually obliged by taking lots of pictures for them. And he enjoyed that, developing himself.
Okay, this was, of course, before I was married. I was a single person at that time, and I was the on the committee for the MN and Gleaner Week coming up, and we needed a nice printed program for that event to give out to the participants. Grandpa Lovelace had been one who would do a lot of printing for other people in the ward, in the stake. He was very generous with his time in that respect. And so Sadie was there, and so was Bill, my future husband. He was just home from the Army, and he was kind of doing his homework and sort of watching me a little bit, and I was sort of looking at him a little bit. But anyway, Grandpa Lovelace and Sadie helped me put together, or helped, I had the program all written out, and they just helped decide what needed to be printed, so they graciously consented to print that for our MN and Gleaner week. And after I left, and I learned later that my future husband Bill had said, well, shall I marry her today or wait till tomorrow? And of course it was not too many months later that we actually married. And I was going to say too about that day, well, Grandpa being the printer that he was, he ended up printing our wedding invitations and our thank yous and napkins, and also he did the photography for our pictures for our wedding and everything else. Very generous man.
3 birth announcements that he made for us, and they were special, artistic, different things when each of our children were born. But I wanted to talk a little about, he had quite a sense of humor. If you got him started on something, he was just crazy. I remember one time we had an old purse that somebody had cut the back side off to use the leather for something, and so he got that, and he was selling it, you know. Now you've got to buy this purse here. It looked perfectly fine on the front. It's so wonderful. You just won't believe all the things you could do with it. You know, it's not heavy. You won't have to be burdened down with all the stuff that you put in a purse, because there's only half of it here. But he just went on and on and on selling this purse, and we were just cracking up, dying about it. But he had a real sense of humor in kind of a dry way. Well, she was a very energetic person. She just tackled anything and got it done. And she worked in the Relief Society for many years, and was a president for quite a few years, and then worked in the Stake Relief Society also. But they lived in a ward that was, Wilson Ward was older people. At one time they had 40 widows in the ward, and she knew them. She knew all of them. And from when he was, my dad was ward clerk, they had all the records of the ward members, and she knew all those people, and they knew her, and it was a very comfortable, homey ward with a lot of love.
And she wrote a children's book and had it published, and wrote a lot of poetry and a lot of, she wrote the Christmas cards every year, and my dad set the type in front of them. There is a post-Christmas picture in front of the fireplace with the whole family except Bill. He must be in the Army or on a mission. I was much older before I figured out that paint wasn't made by kerosene and printer's ink. I thought it was when I was little. They would stain the hardwood floors, and of course they used, for pigment, they used printing ink, and they'd have to get it just right for my mom, and it'd mix all kinds of different ones. Finally I'd get it right, and she'd okay it, and then stain the floors and varnish it. She was sick from her 40s on, one thing after another. And he retired early to take care of her. And that Parkinson is not a good way to go. He could tell when she died because she relaxed. And that's the first time in years that she had.
My dad, well, my mother had many health problems and struggled in her later years, and she had Parkinson's, and it was very difficult for her to get around and do anything. That was the time when my dad had to take over the cooking and the housekeeping and the whatever, because she couldn't do anything at that point. He tended her very lovingly at home, and he didn't have great nursing skills, but he did what he could, and he got it done. He did the cooking. He had never learned to cook. My mother just always did that, but she had to teach him how to do a few things, and he worked on them, and he got so he could keep them fed, and but it was very tedious for him. He took him all day to fix dinner. He was not familiar with cooking, but when he had to do it, he did it, and tended my mother at home while it was very difficult for her.
It just took her down really fast, and she had been such an active person. I mean, she was involved in so many things, and she and Bill involved in so many things, that to see her go down like that was really hard. Hard for her, hard for us. The one thing about that, though, and a tribute to Bill Lovelace III, is that he quit his job at Lorraine Press so he could take care of her 24/7. I mean, I don't know many men that would do that, or that would even know what to do, but he cared for her like you can't believe. He was just so kind and tender, and just cared for her up to the very day that she died. And I think that is a real tribute to him. I was very impressed with what he did.